Today on Guilty by Association, we are tackling one of the toughest challenges in community management: recruiting and keeping great talent. I am joined by Adoni Kokkinos, CEO of Newell Property Management in Naples, Florida. Adoni has built such a creative recruitment program. It brings talent straight from college and it sells them on both the job and the lifestyle of a community manager. We're talking location, work life balance, and how to keep great people once you find them. Adoni, welcome to the podcast. Adoni, thank you so much for joining Guilty by Association today. I want to hear a little bit more about you. So, start from the beginning. Tell us about yourself.
So I was born in Naples, was raised in Naples, and I left Naples for a while. I realized I wanted to come back, and I came back to Naples and saw there was only kind of a handful of industries that are in Naples where you can be successful, and it was
Right.
hospitality and or medical or real estate. And I knew hospitality from my dad. My family has always owned restaurants, and I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the fun part of restaurants, but I also saw what the restaurant industry was. So while I enjoyed the service and hospitality side of it, it's so Megan, have you ever worked in a restaurant?
Oh, heck yeah. For a very long time, my very first job was I was a host. Actually, no, I wasn't a hostess. They put me straight into serving. And I was 16 years old. That was my very first job.
Fantastic. So, did you ever encounter anybody who was a career restaurant person? Like they were born, went into restaurants, and died working in a restaurant?
Um, no, I don't think that I did, honestly. I feel like don't get me wrong, I definitely had people that were career restaurant people that, like, kinda moved up the chain, but I don't think I personally knew anyone who was, like, born into it and started, like, from birth in the restaurant industry. It was always, like, I don't honestly, I think, a career in restaurants is actually a really great career choice. There are a lot of different directions that you can go with it. So a lot of my friends that wanted to stay in it, they wanted to become like the line managers and then the general manager of a restaurant, and they wanted to move up the ranks that way. I never worked in a family restaurant, which is probably very different than like the corporate area that I always worked.
My experience in restaurants is it's kind of a subculture. Everybody who's worked in service or has been there for a long time, it's kind of a little unique subculture, if you will. And there's a culture to the dishwashers. There's a culture to the hostess or the host. There's a culture if you've got maitre d's. There's a culture to serving. There's a culture to the chefs. There's all these things have different cultures. And the one thing I came to realize growing up in a restaurant family was that service and hospitality, those people, and I'm not saying whether it can be trained or can't be trained. I don't even want to go to because I think we might be talking about training. I don't know. Um, it is an incredible thing when when you go to. So my father obviously owned the restaurant. He was a chef. My father eating the food. My father's an incredible cook. He's an incredible chef. But what he's even better at than that, and I think everybody who's very successful in the restaurant industry, is the hospitality portion of it. He makes everybody feel incredibly welcome. Whether you're coming to our house just, because you're swinging by to drop off mail or you're coming to the house for, a meal or whatever, everybody felt super welcome. And I noticed that existed with every restaurant that we were associated with because the families all owned restaurants. And some of these were large, very successful high-end restaurants. Some of these were small sandwich shops. They ran the whole spectrum. And it was all about making you feel welcome and happy and, providing that experience on top of having good food. And so that part of the restaurant industry, hospitality, I really enjoyed. What I found some difficulty with, or I guess at the time I didn't know if I wanted to deal with, is restaurants also have incredibly high turnover because you have a lot of people that go in and they it's basically their entry level job and they're doing it to get from point A to point B. You also have turnover because my experience again was with restaurants. you mentioned moving up, but a lot of moving up is moving left and right. So if you want to move up in a restaurant, oftentimes you have to learn all these different lines of jobs. So you'll learn what the maitre d does, you learn what the bartenders do, you learn what service does, but then you're also learning the finance side in the background. You need to learn all of that to start to move up. So there's a lot of movement like that. So that part of the restaurant industry I wasn't a huge fan of, uh, but I enjoyed hospitality. Real estate seemed like it was mostly sales, and I am quite possibly the world's worst salesman. There was a running joke in one of my old jobs that I was promoted. I went into sales, and I was the only person who continued to get promoted and had never sold anything. I was really good at helping other people sell stuff. I would help them put together things. I was good at staying organized, but sales, that's not my thing. Like, I guess it's asking for the sale. Like, I don't want to be
Yeah.
like, "Hey, do you want to, yeah, you want to buy this phone right now?" I'm not good at closing. I'm not a salesperson. Medical is not my thing. So I saw community management as kind of the hybrid of, it's got real estate, which in Naples is probably our leading industry, I would think. Like I said, hospitality, medical, and real estate. And it had the hospitality side of it,
Yeah.
the service side of it. And so that's kind of how I ended up landing where I'm at, I guess.
That's awesome. Did you, did I see that you spent time in Denver?
I did some college out there. I didn't spend a ton of time. So when I left Naples, I went to Orlando, and I went to the University of Central Florida. Worked for Disney, which also, speaking of like hospitality, was quite.
Oh my gosh, they are known for
Yeah,
it.
it
Yeah.
was probably some of the best training there. When you start, everyone goes through traditions. Um, what else do we go through? They have a bunch of classes, and so at Newell, the whole concept of Newell Academy, in some ways, is probably related to something that was called Disney University, which was where we all went to learn our initial things, and it started with traditions. Everybody went through the traditions course, and then because I worked in hotels as well, and I was a concierge. I went through first impressions. I had been a lifeguard, and so they all have classes, but it all centered around that. So I guess Newell Academy probably actually originally started from there. But then I ended up. I realized, as much as I loved working at Disney, and the culture was incredible, that I needed to make money, and I wasn't seeing a clear path at the time to go do that. Disney did have a path to do it. I just didn't know about it, and I had kind of taken a different path. So Disney has something called the college program, which is where they identify students in college, they bring them to Orlando, they make them part of the magic, and they get to go through. And the goal is that they're going to go into a managerial role. I wasn't aware of that. I went to UCF, which happened to be in Orlando, and I worked at Disney. So while I was in college, I worked at Disney, but I was the college program. So I ended up moving to. I worked for a company called AG Edwards because they paid for education. So I'd gotten my undergraduate, and they help with the industrial stuff. So that's how I ended up doing that. And anyway,
No, it's so funny. I'm originally from Colorado and I saw your university. Was it CU Denver? Is that what I
yeah,
saw? So I went to Metro State University of Denver, which shares a campus with CU Denver. Like it's all the same buildings. And so it's funny when, someone from Florida, when you see CU Denver, I was like, wait, that's awesome. That's
yeah, it
crazy.
was beautiful, and it was kind of my first time dealing with mountains and stuff. All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, there are elevation changes in the world. Didn't know about that.
So, Adoni, you and I met originally. How long ago was it? Was literally only like 6 weeks ago. We were at a CEOMC Florida event. And I don't even know, you came walking by. I don't know how the conversation got started, but we started talking about ACAM and the task force that ACAM created. And the task force, just for the listening audience, it was essentially created to help change the perspective of our industry because anybody who knows HOA knows that we kind of get a bad rap out in the universe. People don't love HOA management. And I am on a mission personally to like change that because I really think that there's a lot here. It's a huge industry that people don't realize. It's an important industry. There's a lot of good that happens. It's not all the negative press that it usually gets. So a part of this task force is the recruitment committee, which is what I am heading up right now. I'm a big believer in getting as many great people to work in this industry as possible. And that is way easier said than done because whenever you tell someone that you work in community management, they tend to like poo poo you away and they're like, okay, crazy lady, like that's great, but like I hate my HOA. So, how do we, you know, change that out in the market and essentially build up the potential new entry type employees that are coming into this market? Like how can we actually go out and recruit? So what the task force is doing is, we're trying to gather a whole bunch of data from different management companies on different areas that they think they need to hire, what their hiring practices are. I don't know, you name it, we're probably trying to work on it. Build career pathing documents so people understand, like, just because you're getting into this side of HOA management doesn't mean you have to stay here forever. There are a lot of different places that it can go. Kind of like what you were talking about with the restaurants, frankly. Like there are directions here that I don't know that people see. I have worked in many of the industry's main positions. I was a receptionist. I was a community manager. I was an assistant community manager. I was an association banker for a hot minute. And now I do software stuff. So just allowing the world to understand all of those different touch points that come with a community association is really important. So I felt like our conversation was it's super unique. Like you actually do some really cool stuff with Newell and out in the market in general. I don't know that it's directly correlated to recruiting in general, but tell me a little bit about your story. Am I correct? Am I remembering it correct? You bring people in to potentially work in higher level roles. Is that right? You're building them up with the goal to put them in a higher level role.
Yeah, the goal that we have is from our recruitment point. I would say our primary recruitment feed, our primary the path that most people join Newell is usually almost directly after they graduate with a bachelor's degree. So we recruit most of our team members straight from college, and that might be local universities or it might be universities in different places. It Where Newell is in Naples, Southwest Florida is a relatively expensive place to live. Although I think everywhere is expensive to live, but um,
Kind of expensive these
it,
days.
it's an expensive rent. Things like that is quite expensive here.
Yeah.
What we have though is, at least I think, is an absolutely gorgeous environment. Our beaches, the restaurants, the parks, the culture, the communities, all of that here is really quite phenomenal. And I think that that exists anywhere where people want to live because it's kind of a chicken and an egg thing, right? If you've got an incredible place to live, people will want to live there. And if you have people who want to live there, you will develop communities there. And then you're going to need community managers. So I think that any place that has a deep need for community managers is a place people want to live. And a lot of times, folks will not appreciate what they have, but folks come there and do appreciate it. So in Naples, a lot of times people say, "Oh, well, we live where people vacation." So if we do a recruitment program and I'm recruiting somebody who's gone to, like me, who was born in Naples and raised here, elementary school, middle school, high school, I might have finally left and I come back. But if you're in high school and you were born and raised in Naples and you spent your weekends, you went and took the boat out to the beach and you camp out there and used to fish and you were used to having incredible restaurants and all of this, you don't appreciate it as much. But if I recruit somebody from the University of Michigan in February and I bring them down to Naples and we put them on the beach in February and they go back up to snow, all of a sudden they really, really want to move to Naples. And so we actually use our environment, our city, as part of our recruitment tool. And that's one of the things we do is we bring all of them have to come and interview. Well, when we do our interviews are multi-day interviews because they go through certain phases, but then we're flying them to Naples, we're putting them up in a hotel, and we get to spend 3 or 4 days with a person. So that I think has helped reduce some of our turnover because our interview isn't a 1 hour interview, it's a 3 or 4 day interview. They're meeting all the people in the team, they participate in meetings, they get to see what we do. So that's once you have them here. Our goal is that when we recruit somebody, so I think this again is for any community management company, we do so much. We're running hundreds of private corporations, right? We're
Yes.
handling their
Yes.
books, we're handling their licensing, we're handling their annual reports, we're handling the actual physical maintenance, we're handling governance. So there's a lot of different options they have within a management company itself. So we get them exposed to all of that, and then we try to give them a career path to go wherever they would like to go. Generally, in association management, at least in this area, as far as I know, most folks come in, they're going to be in training, they manage a portfolio of properties. And a lot of times, some of them want to stay doing portfolio management forever. They're very happy doing portfolio management. Some will, though, want to go into on site management, which is a different challenge. Some will want to go into leadership. And so we try to give them career paths to go into any of those areas of management, or if they want to work in accounting, we've got an accounting side, we have a support services side, we have compliance with insurance, and I think as companies grow, they end up having more need for those specialized folks. It also can provide them, uh, we always say we want you to be happy, whether it's here or somewhere else. So if somebody really wants to, you mentioned you were in banking for a hot minute. Um,
Hot
you
minute.
know, eh, uh, we deal with so many different folks in so many different industries, we can give them that entree. So if you're a really, really good manager and you're like, listen, I might be really good at this, but this isn't really what I want to do. I want to go into banking. Not a problem. We can make those introductions and help them, go to those different places. So from a recruitment standpoint, I would say the city and um, the location, the availability of different things has been very useful for us, and we've been very, very successful at recruiting and developing folks. We started that process 6 or 7 years ago, and the first person we ever recruited in that process is still with us. He's actually running a whole nother office now, and that's he is the furthest evolution of that program, and we continue to push that program further and further.
That's so cool. So how are you finding the people that you are inviting down? Like, is part of the plan just knowing that frankly, Florida is awesome and Naples is one of the best places in Florida? Is that how, like, are you reaching out to colleges and things like that in colder locations? Is it as simple as that?
So there are a number of different platforms that are out there that will give you the ability to recruit directly out of universities, and universities will work with those platforms. Some of those are actually totally free. You don't even have to pay for them. Some of them you do pay for. And there are other platforms that are designed that might not be linked with universities that are designed to help new grads find positions. You can also reach out directly to certain universities, particularly if they're your local university. So in our area, we have Florida Gulf Coast University is quite close. There's a couple of
Mhm.
some state colleges. We can reach out directly and work with recruitment programs with them. Sometimes the universities will actually reach out to us. So if you're posting, like I said, there's a couple of different programs that are out there, different companies. If you're posting with them, they're going to reach out because they want to protect their own student body. There are people that will try to scam or try to take advantage of students, and basically almost like trying to get free labor or something. So they'll reach out and be like, "So what exactly do you do?" Particularly if it's a university. So I think community associations are becoming more and more common, but I think that there are some states where we've talked to their universities where they aren't even familiar with the concept of communities. They're like, "So are you a government organization? So are you a government? Are you a municipality? And you're private. And wait a second, you guys you issue the tickets for parking, but you control access. So we kind of have to explain what we do. That will sometimes that little bit of interest, that curiosity as to something new, helps get us on their radar because they have deans, they have people that their whole job. So as a university, you're trying to recruit people to come to your university, And the way you're recruiting them is by saying, I'm going to give you this education and you're going to come out and have a great job. So by having the ability to, they have placement. They have groups that's what they want to do too. So you get to work hand in hand with them, and that's worked very, very well. So I guess that's our how we get in touch with them and get the feeders for that.
So you work with management companies or you have exposure to management companies that are all over the country and they don't have what you have in Florida, which is this beautiful environment. So if I'm a management company in Allen, Texas, like how do I recruit in Allen, Texas if it's not this place that people necessarily are hunting out to go live?
So I guess that's a conversation that would has to exist, right? So in Allen, Texas, do you have a lot of communities?
Great question. Yeah, I feel like we've got a pretty good amount of community here.
So you have a lot of community management firms, and they're all competing for managers, right?
All of them. Yes.
So all of those communities, the people that are there, why are they there? Why are the people moving to Allen, Texas, and living there?
Okay, I see what you're getting at. So, like, peel back the layers on why people love living here and use that as the tool to draw in more people. So it's actually really smart. So what you're kind of saying is you're not necessarily recruiting directly for the business, you're almost recruiting for the area that you live. Like I live in Allen, Texas. Here's what's cool about Allen. Allen has a great community because I don't know, if you think Texas, right? All of our students in our student body filter up to one high school. So our high school is massive. Football is big in Texas, right? So Allen has the most football kids to choose from. Our football team is amazing. Like if you love sports and you love hanging out with your friends and you love that kind of thing. I am making this up on the fly, but you get
Yeah,
what I'm
no,
going for. But that's what like, if you're picturing your future to be like this with your family, it would maybe be a great choice for you. That is really smart. And it's almost like obvious. Like, that's kind of what people should be doing. And we're probably overcomplicating it a little bit.
yeah, I think, and that's exactly how I would suggest that this gets handled. Is if you're a community manager and you're a community management company, you exist because you have a lot of communities in your area, and you're a growing area. And if that's happening, there people are moving there for a reason. You get to capitalize on that same reason. You need people too. And so you get to have them move there. And I think it goes hand in hand. That's one of the again. There's so many. There are a lot of huge positives to what we do. We get to be in this hospitality industry. We get to be in this service industry. We get to be professionals, but also you kind of like nurses. You pretty much have a job anywhere. And so the cool thing about what we do is you get to pick where you want to go. And then, you get to, if you develop your skills and your lifestyle changes, you've got somewhere else that you can go that you want to go. You get to transition those same set of skills to somewhere else. So I think that that's from a recruitment standpoint, being a property manager as a job goes with the lifestyle very much. And so it's more instead of having a work life balance, it's more of a work life blend. I don't know. I remember someone giving me this lesson once about how your work and your life have this blending, and you. I think that that is really true with location, with your job, with all of that. So if you're going to try to recruit someone into a job, you need to give them the lifestyle, the location, all of that to go with it.
I love that. Coming from a person, I am not blended very well. I do not have balance perfectly, but my husband and I are just in that like very odd middle part of life where we're so busy, right? We've got 2 kids. We both travel a lot. We're kind of like, what the heck is going on with life these days? We're just in survival mode. But it is really important to have, and I think that our industry has actually improved on this a lot over the last several years, where it is more
Mhm.
of a blending rather than a you need to be sitting in this chair for this many hours. And then you also have to go to your night meetings and all of that. If you look at it from like just a community manager lens,
But the cool thing about our industry, one of the wonderful things about our industry is it lends itself to that blending. Earlier, you'd mentioned night meetings. And, if let's say you're a portfolio manager and you're managing, I don't know, 10 properties, 8 properties, whatever you're managing. And let's say those properties have monthly board meetings. That means if they're all doing night meetings, you have 8 nights a week that you're not getting home, or 8 nights a month, and that you're not getting home, until very, very late at night. So sometimes I think there's an expectation that has to be discussed, and you have to blend that. But on the other side of it, let's say that you hopefully don't have 8 of them that are where this is happening. You have the ability, and I know a number of our managers do this, to go to a 2-hour lunch and get an education, or if you need to slip out and do this. So we have so much control over our days that it's not like, we were talking earlier about being in the service industry and in a restaurant. If you're a server in a restaurant, you need to be there from the time you're supposed to be there till the time you need to leave. And you don't have a lot of flexibility there. In manager world, we have the flexibility to schedule meetings to make it, convenient to a certain extent. We can schedule our work. We can do stuff at night. And so it gives us huge amounts of flexibility, and it really does allow us to have that work life blend.
That's awesome. Have you, because this is also something that I feel has shifted, have you tried to, and I know it's never going to be perfectly aligned because the people that are maybe on boards, they're also working for the most part. And I know that's different in different parts of the country. Sometimes it is full retirees, they don't care when a meeting is. And sometimes it's, I don't know, hopefully um younger people are starting to join boards of directors where maybe I don't know, they're working during the day, so maybe they have to have a meeting later at night. But have you guys, seen a shift in when board meetings can happen? So maybe you're not having so many at night?
I don't know if I've seen any shift. I feel like the blend is still where it was originally. When it comes to night board meetings, I guess this is my thought. This is a kind of a stream of thought. There's no weight or priority. Boards are volunteer positions. People volunteer to be on that board. Now, at the same time, it's also an elected position. So we'll go down the volunteer side. So they volunteer to be on the position. They have a full time job doing something else, and they're trying to be on the board and attend those meetings. And the only time they can attend them at night. So that's one side of this, right? Because it's an unpaid volunteer position, I think is the other part is when we say it's an elected position, but it's an unpaid, generally an unpaid position. There are a few exceptions to those. On the other side of it, when we look at other elected positions, and I don't know how it is in Allen, Texas, but I can tell you that in Collier County or in Naples or Fort Myers or Estero or Benita, Lee County, the places that we work, their elected officials only really hold meetings during the day. Their meetings are held with the county manager. That's happening during the day, and the reason is that they're trying to attract professionals. I think a struggle, and I'm not sure what the solution on this is that oftentimes, if you're truly considered a professional, if you're considered a lawyer or a doctor or something like that, I don't know why lawyer and doctor are the two that came to mind,
Because that's how
but
we grow up. We
yeah,
always think of
those are our
lawyers
two
and
greatest
doctors.
professions, right?
Yeah.
Um, you only work during the day. And when you're working at night, I think that's when you start to pull people into the idea of being a semi-professional or a skilled trade, like a plumber or an electrician, something along those lines. But even in those cases, they're paid extra to work after hours, right? They're earning overtime. But we come back to the discussion we had just a bit ago, where as managers, we can kind of control our day, right? So we could have blocks of availability during the day where we're not working. That whole thing, I'm not sure the resolution in that. We mentioned if you're a portfolio manager and you have multiple associations, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but if I had 8 nights a week where I was getting home late or 8 nights a month where I was getting home late due to board meetings, so that's what, twice a week,
Yeah, twice
right,
a week or so.
approximately,
Mhm.
just from because I'm going to board meetings. I don't know how much it would take a lot for me to value that job. And granted, also a lot of it has to do with where I am in my life.
It would be really complicated. Um, I think when I was a manager, I didn't do it for that long. I was younger. I didn't have kids. I wasn't married or anything, but I hated my night meetings. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just wanna go home and have a social life when, like, after work." So it was really hard, but I can actually see the opposite happening, like, it would actually be easier as a younger person to have night meetings than someone my age who, like, I need to make dinner, or I need to get my kids to their extracurriculars, like, all those types of things.
And then the other side of it, though, is let's say you're an on-site. You only have one association. Night meetings are quite possibly the norm, I think, and not maybe not the norm, but I would say that they are very, very frequent in on-site positions. And oftentimes people enjoy them. I know a number of our on-sites really enjoy their night meetings, and it depends on where it is. And we have some associations where I've worked with them, and now, again, not the norm, but we have some. I have some associations we work with that have night meetings, and they actually have an open bar. And so you
Hey.
go in, they hold them at the country club. There's a bar, and it's kind of like social hour too. So if I'm doing that once a month, I'm looking forward to it. I consider that a reason I want to go to work, a reason I like my job. Because you're getting to hang out. You get to see these folks that you enjoy getting to have conversation with. You do your hour board meeting. That's a positive, but it's trying to figure that out. That's something that I think our industry has always struggled with and continues to struggle with. I do believe that things like this, the video conferencing, has made that a little bit easier. I think if you're, you know, again, I don't know your exact life situation, Megan, but if you've got a family and children, and you're taking a meeting from home at 7 o'clock at night, that is far more acceptable than I need to take that meeting from going in person. So I think that's helped. But at the same time, when we're discussing that, the way legislation works, at least in Florida, when we do these virtual meetings, there has to be a physical location as well. And so that's, something we're having to work in. Now, interestingly enough, we have these virtual meetings that have to have physical locations. And now let's say that, we had some of our smaller associations, which might have had 2 meetings a year. Now legislation requires them to have 4 meetings a year, which I don't think is a bad idea, but they have to have a physical location to do that. And there's a lot of associations that don't have physical locations to hold a meeting that has technology where we can do this hosted type of thing. So now you've got management companies that are having to find a way to double their space to hold meetings in their own offices to cope with the additional meetings that are required and the fact that we're engaging in that. So that is the exciting part of what we do. There's always something new on the horizon, always something new we get to find solutions for. And I think it's huge opportunities for management companies to improve and to show what we can do. Whether it is having more facilities so that we can hold these meetings, and then on the other side you can hold your meeting remotely. So maybe we're going to convert office space so people are working remotely, but we're converting that office space to be hosted conference room space for our clients.
Yeah. You have like a really positive disposition on all of this. It's actually very refreshing. Um because again, so many people speak so negatively about our industry and they kind of focus on the things that are irritating, and it's so much more than that, and I think that's why I love it so much because it at the heart of it really is just hospitality. Exactly what you're saying. Like I a lot of people that I've talked to have started recruiting from the hospitality industry directly because they feel like that is a really great starting point. So maybe that would be helpful for someone listening if you haven't thought of that yet. And most likely, if you're a CEO and you're listening to this, like you've probably thought of that because recruiting is very difficult in this industry right now.
Hospitality industry is fantastic to recruit from. I will share my only personal struggle with doing that. And we've gotten some incredible folks out of the hospitality industry, but we've also gotten folks that will. So Naples is very seasonal, and this might just
Yes.
be a Naples issue. So we'll have folks that in the summer we'll bring on board. And the problem is that they make 75% of their money in the 3 or 4 months of season because they're tipped employees or whatever, and they'll be quite happy going through the summer with us. But then all of their friends are making huge amounts of money in a month, 2 or 3 months, and we'll end up losing them because they are now working at a bar at night or doing something in addition. And are you really a property manager first, or are you a bartender first?
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a
and
really
so
good point.
that's been our only struggle there. Not everybody, like I said, we've had some great recruitments out of hospitality. I think that the service industry is, as a background, there's not much better training ground than working in service.
Yeah, it really is great. That's what I did when I was a manager. I was like managing during the day and I also worked at Old Chicago. Shout out old Chicago in Colorado. Um, but I would work with my manager at the restaurant to build my schedule around my night meetings so I could do both because, man, I loved that cash. Like, it was really fun getting the cash. So it's good to know I'm not the only one who did that, like, working all those jobs.
What we've seen happen is folks that will come, they'll work with us for maybe the summer and then they leave. But the problem with that is because we invest quite a bit in training. So before they, your overhead, you're truly overhead at Newell for at least your first year. We will spend more on you than you bring in for us for at least your first year. Usually it's the end of the second year is when we start to see that they're doing something. But when they work for us for 8 months and then they leave, it's not good for anybody, and that's my only hesitation with trying to recruit directly out of the hospitality pool.
Yeah, that would be really hard because then you lose like the consistency and in the time that they leave and potentially come back, like so much has changed and you have to retrain again or the community segment might be different, whether they're portfolio. I don't know. That would be really hard. Um, Tell me really quickly about Newell University. Do you think that that helps with your employee? I'm assuming that's your training model, kind of like you said with Disney. And do you think that by doing that type of training and onboarding helps with your retention down the road? Because again, I don't know in this industry that there are. We checked for the ACAM task force. We did a little bit of this line of questioning in our survey that we sent out, and not a lot of people have like true onboarding because usually people are so short on staff that they are throwing people headfirst into the job. They're like, "No, like we don't have time. Like you got to just go learn on the go." So tell me a little bit about what you do.
As far as what Newell Academy is and what we do, it's an ever evolving thing. What Newell Academy is today and what it was 2 years ago is drastically different. When we first had the idea of training, it was just paper. It was almost like tasks and things that would be completed. And this is we're going to train you, and it was like a checklist. We're going to train you how to process an invoice. We're going to train you how to read a financial. We're going to train you how to hold a meeting. Because so in the state of Florida, there is a licensing requirement, a CAM licensing requirement. And the interesting thing about the licensing requirement is that in order to take the CAM test, so, like, let's say that, do you have a CAM in Florida, by the way? I don't know.
No, I don't. I managed in Colorado, and what's funny, in Colorado, they have introduced CAM licensing, and then it's been ripped out, and now they're trying to put it back. So, super fun for them.
So, the struggle that existed in Florida is that the CAM license tests you on laws and and you need to pass this test. The test doesn't appear to get updated as frequently as the laws are updated. So, when we send somebody through and they're, at the beginning of Newell Academy, they're going to need to take the test. And we don't handle any of the test prep or anything. We kind of we have a couple of different folks we work with on that. So we don't really have anything to do with that specific part. We give them time to study, we give them the access to the study guides, we set them up with the classes to do that, although that's not internal to Newell. But 90% of what they learn is correct, but there's, maybe 5 or 10% that might not necessarily be correct because the law has changed. And so an example of that, when I guess one of the more recent ones I became aware of is we had somebody who they were trying to waive financial reporting or reduce their financial reporting requirements indefinitely. And the reason was they'd been taught that in their class, but the law changed and they can only reduce that every other year. And the way that you reduce that, the voting threshold had changed a little bit, I think, as well. There was something else that had changed in there. And they brought out their book to me and well, this is what they, well, yeah, but it hasn't. So we put them through their licensing requirement first, and then we start to train them to do what they're going to do. And that originally was where I'm going with this is that was originally a checklist.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
you're going to learn how to do this. The original reason we began moving off of that was staffing. So if you need to hire somebody on, that means that you need to have a trainer for every person you hire on. And that cost is heavy because let's say you're paying your trainer X,
Yeah.
um, and now you're paying your trainee 0.6x. That means that you've got 1.6 people that are total overhead. And as a smaller company, that's difficult to absorb. If you
Yes.
only have 10 or 20 employees, and now you've got 10 or 20% of your employment cost is just overhead to train somebody, that's a difficult pill to swallow. So we started trying to find ways to automate that. We started moving towards videos and having videos that they could do, and then also checklists and field work. That has worked out pretty well. We're changing the format of our videos around a little bit. I think with as far as retention goes, it's been helpful from a recruitment process because it actually shows that we're committed to having something for training. Because when you walk in and you've just got your one piece of paper and you're like, "Here, this is what you're going to, check off these boxes." You spent 15 cents making a copy.
Right.
Uh, if they see a professionally done video, I think it's helped with recruitment. They know that you're going to be someone to support them. I don't know if I would say it's really. I can't say I can measure its retention. I don't know that I would measure its retention. I think that it's helped us make very good managers, and the managers are, informed and able to go in front of their boards, and the boards are like, I've got a great person. I thought so. There was a recent situation. Well, maybe not recent. This was probably a year ago now, and it was a member, actually somebody that you know, who has a PCAM,
Okay.
and they were visiting Naples, and it's somebody we actually talked about earlier. So I'll just to say you know
I'm
who it is
guessing
without
who it
saying the
is.
name. Um, and they were visiting Naples, and the newest we call people that work at Newell, we call them Noopers, and our newest Nooper was with them. And so there was a question that she asked me about cooperatives. And my newest Nooper schooled this PCAM about cooperatives just completely. I was so impressed with him. And he just explained to her completely differences between condominiums and cooperatives and all of this. And so I think that that might long term help with retention because they're so confident in what they do and they're capable of doing what they're doing. And I was like, wow, I've got this, young man who's only been with us for 3 months now, 2, 3 months, and he's schooling this PCAM who's been in the industry for a decade and confident enough to do it. So I think that's kind of where I see the wins, and that helps probably with retention long term. I think retention though is more making them comfortable, making them happy with each other. It's the team environment. Nobody, like I'm not delusional enough to believe that anybody in my company, well, maybe there's a few people in my company that probably come in because of me, but the majority of them come in for each other. And they're not really, I'm not as big of a thought in their mind, but the people, the guys and girls that are next to them, the men and women that are next to them,
That's right.
are why they come in to support.
That's how I feel about it too. Like I think of the people that I'm working with on a daily basis, like those are the people that make me love my job. And because we have fun together, we do the hard stuff together, like and that really builds amazing bonds. Okay, so the podcast is called Guilty by Association. So what is something that you are guilty of? And I like guilty of in life or in work that could be helpful for someone else.
I polled a few people that came into my office, and they actually gave me the exact same answer of what I'm guilty of. So I
It's gonna
obviously
be
it is
good.
very much true, and that was very impactful because I've been trying to change it, but I'm probably going to redouble my efforts. The thing I think I am most guilty of and have been told is I will engage with my phone or my email or something while I'm dealing with other things. I don't know if it's FOMO or what, but I'm worried that there might be an email or a phone call or a message that comes into me that I missed that is critically important. So while I'm in a meeting, I will keep on my monitoring screen my email so I know what's going on. Or I might, take my phone out and be like, what's going on here while I'm in that meeting. So that is what I am most guilty of.
Ooh, I that's a really good one. And something to definitely be cognizant of. I can understand why that's like a lesson for other people. But you're not doing it because you're like, disengaged or like you're not being rude. You're like, "No, I'm just so worried that I'm gonna miss something."
Yeah, no, it's not that, I don't intend I don't think anybody ever intends to be rude.
Never. I
It's
don't
not
think
that
so
I'm
either.
I'm not more interested in what's happening on my email or my computer or in my phone. What I'm concerned about is that somebody will need me for something and I won't be there for them. And that is a huge fear of mine, is that I want to make sure that I'm accessible. We now have moved to Dialpad AI, but I've gone out of my way to make sure that anybody who needs me can reach me. Here's my phone number, text me, call me, whatever, whether it's a client or whatever, you need to get a hold of me. If it's an emergency, there's always a way to get a hold of me. Particularly for my own team, for me, that's the most important thing is my team needs to be able to get a hold of me no matter what. Uh, and then I also want to make sure that we have accessibility to clients so that if a client needs me and it's an emergency, I can be accessible. But I'm enjoying our conversation. But while I'm in this for an hour or an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever we spend, I'm not really available to them. So it's a fear of missing out on something important where somebody needs me.
I love that. That was a really great answer. And that's fun. I love it. Guilty by association.
The irony is that up until about 5 years ago, I had a beeper, and that was the emergency. So all of my
You
team had
had a
my beep.
beeper.
Yeah, up until 5 years ago. And if it was an emergency, you could beat me. And I got rid of it and went fully over to the smartphone. And
Oh,
I think that's been my
congratulations. I like the beeper though. You know what? It's kinda genius because then it's there, but you're not, like, constantly looking at something. It's not the worst idea. Maybe you should go back to the beeper.
I've thought about it. It's harder to find a beeper than you would think.
They would probably be, like, worth a lot of money now if you went to, like, resell a beeper. People probably want them, just like like, a regular old digital camera got cool again for a little while, and they're expensive to go buy again because you can't really find them
Everything comes
anywhere.
back.
It's funny. I am all about like if some of the 90s, early 2000s could creep back into my life, it would not make me sad. It would be amazing.
I'm all for it.
Seriously, Captain Awesome, thank you for joining Guilty by Association today. This was really, really fun. And I hope that we can do it again in the future.
Fantastic. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Guilty by Association. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, like it and share it with someone who might love it too. Until next time, stay a little guilty by association.